The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Here at Blue Apron, we know exactly how hectic school nights can be. That's why we created Assemble and Bake. Delicious one-pan meals that make family dinner simple. Just assemble the pre-chopped ingredients and put the pan in the oven to bake. Then you're free to help out with that last-minute diorama. Shop Assemble and Bake at blueapron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Welcome to No Question About That. This is the Tactic Show with Dharnish and Daniel. How's it going, chaps?
All good.
Very good. The Blues Brothers on your shirt there. Dharnish in his Galatasaray kit. Didn't know you were a fan. So you should switch. I'm going to start wearing a Besiktas kit just to support Ollie.
What a guy, Ollie, by the way. I mean, God bless that guy. I mean, I know Sancho is too idle to accept it, but good on Ollie for trying to
giving it a shot.
Make amends for fucking us over with Sancho by supping him back. I mean, big up Ollie for that. That guy loves Manchester United, and I admire that in a person.
I would love there to be a fly on the wall conversation where he's actually doing it just to be, red agent and support United. So, because why the fuck would anyone take that guy? Anyway, we're not talking about Sancho.
Always the company man, Ollie. Always the company man. Take one for the team.
Love him.
Like buying Ahmad, who I'm sure we'll talk about later. Buying Ahmad is one of those ultimate company man activities. Mate, you don't have a midfield. You're hanging. You've got the job in a strange manner, and you're spending whatever the fuck you're spending on this
40
guy.
million euros.
So it may or may not turn out to be good. And in midfield, you've got fucking Matic, and he's 90.
There you go. Well, in the end, Ahmad might turn out to be one of the finest wing-back purchases ever by accident somehow. We'll talk a little bit about that. So we're going to talk about Bayern and the build-up and some of the changes in how United bait the press. Talk about pressing from the front, which was quite aggressive, I thought, and it dropped off, but pretty good. Talk about United's forwards, what was good, what was bad, like there wasn't any in the box, and a little bit, maybe if we have time, Bruno, Casemiro in midfield. There's a lot to break down here, I thought. All right, so, I mean, the big topic of conversation, which was mad, really, because United actually played pretty well. But after the game, it was impossible not to just talk about Bayern because he was the man what lost it for United. But the interesting thing in the press or the baiting of the press and the build-up was a bit of a change. So, I mean, Dharnish, go through your observations. One of the things that struck me first when I saw this was just how wide United's 2 wide central centre-backs were. Try clear out the spaces, Amorim calls it. So what were your first impressions of that?
I mean, watching the game back today, it's weird coming off of a match like that where I have loads of optimism and I was actually really, really happy. I was really happy with almost everything that they did, apart from obviously putting the ball in the net, which is what you have to do to win football matches. But the rest of it was good.
Oh, all right, Mikel Arteta. Hashtag LinkedIn.
Is that it? What?
For me.
Your KPI for today.
I mean, Bayern, obviously, he's the reason that they lost the match because he committed a horrible goalkeeping error. But then what United did in terms of this Amorim style of football is very much what we're going to see throughout games through the season, and what we saw last season is there's going to be a lot of players in Man United's half trying to press them. There's going to be a lot of players in Man United's half, either on the left or the right. There's going to be a cluster of them in one zone. So what Man United have to do is use that to their advantage, cut through it. They did. Mm-hmm. They did that brilliantly. Bayern on multiple different occasions, either found Mason Mount or he found Bruno, cut through Arsenal. Bruno would turn, Mason Mount would turn, go along to Mbeumo. Hey presto, Man United were in Arsenal's half either with Mbeumo wide, or with Dogu wide, or with Dalot wide. And then obviously the problem was you found the solution of how to get to Arsenal's box successfully. The problem was they weren't flooding the box. But I was really, really happy with how United baited the press in. And I was really, really happy with just constantly seeing them either go centrally or even go through the left or the right. There's been a lot of talk in the summer about why is De Ligt in that central centre-back position. And we're seeing that now. They're even using that now because Victor Gyökeres was on De Ligt. They would use that. Sometimes they would give it to De Ligt in the centre. De Ligt would push it out wide to Euro. Euro drives forward 20 yards. So I really like the baiting the press. I really like
and Shaw, I thought that really worked well. I mean, Amorim talked about it beforehand. He was asked actually by Carl Anker about that, the inverted central centre-back, one of those incredibly wanky modern phrases in football. But, here we are. We have to talk about it. And why they do that. And he talked about clearing the space out. And what he really meant was, like, this is how you build up. And I guess I'm looking at it going, why isn't that a midfielder doing that? Why isn't the midfielder who's much more comfortable on the half turn and can move the ball forward quickly doing that? And because it is a problem sometimes. And we saw in one of the early Amorim games where I think it was Onana gave the central ball out to Maguire and he's facing his own goal for the bounce pass out wide and he fucked it up and the opposition scored. I forget which game it was in now. I was trying to find it.
Could have been any.
It could have been any of them. It could have been like 20 of them.
So on that point, that's exactly how Inter do it, I think. That they clear the centre-backs out of there, which is one of the reasons you see Inter's centre-backs overlapping, getting forward, is because in order to get out of the press, they bring back the midfield players, Calhanoglu,
right. Both of them on many occasions, yeah. But they do it through rotations as well. So they have literally free reign to be like, sometimes Bastoni, who's a centre-back for Inter, he will be up front. Barella will sometimes be really like left wing, even though he's a central midfielder. And here's the thing, that was sometimes happening yesterday to Man United. Sometimes you saw Dalot, he'd start the move really wide right, and then he'd come into the box into that same sequence. So it is getting there. It's definitely getting there. I really like the baiting the press. I really like Bayern. I also really like the pressing structure as well, which we'll get into.
I didn't look at the stats on how often he went long, launched it by India. It felt like a few of the early ones were just a bit too obvious. Because obviously, if you're against Saliba, he's going to win everything in the air against pretty much everyone.
But not against the centre forward that we didn't start necessarily.
Well, that's true because Sesko will be the one man, or Šeško. Let's not get into that. Will be the Šeško will be the one the one man who would maybe bully him in the air, and we didn't use him, of course. But yeah, I agree generally. I thought the build up was it felt less risky because we weren't being caught out. Right, they were successfully. Some of it was simple. It's the simple bait, pass, move, go. Right. Bruno seemed to do that well later in the game. He was the man coming deep. And playing the quarterback to collect the ball. It's a shame when he's so far 60 yards away from goal because we know how dangerous he is. Still managed to create 5 chances in the game, which is something, I think. But generally speaking, felt better, right? Didn't concede from that. Conceded from our other Achilles heel, which is set pieces.
I also want to comment on the fact that, you said Saliba is going to win the ball in the air more times than our forwards. But what was happening was the left 10 or the right 10 was coming into it. So they'd play it on the floor to him. So regardless of where either of them were, it was like, look, even if you don't win the ball now, Mbeumo or Cunha or Mount, whoever it was in that left space, left hand, right space, or the right, it's like you've dragged him out of his position now. So if you want to touch it back wide or you want to touch it inside and then go make a direct pass, we can do that. And we did. Mm-hmm. That's why we saw a lot of the ball we saw. There's a lot of the sequence that we saw in pre-season. Drag them into one zone, find the inside pass, switch the ball, and then switch back to, normally it's Mbeumo, because he's got an insane ability to trap the ball like in the air. I was like, there's 3 or 4 times.
His technique is
how are you trapping
very sharp.
He uses his bum a lot. He's like it'd be hard to mark in 5-a-side. I could
good twerker, yeah.
I could picture bulldozing me in five-a-side quite a bit.
That is, I mean, the big arse is actually, I mean, I even found that in my very limited football career. I've got a fat arse, and you stick it out, and it's hard for people to get at you. I mean, the best exponent of that, played for United, is Mark Hughes. You could not get round that arse and thighs. But on back to the point about the long clearances. Obviously, it will be better when we have Šeško. But the point also, it's not just about whether he can win the header or not. It's that if you make a centre-back try and win a header under pressure, and then you've got two Gannets like Mbeumo and Cunha, you might win the second ball. And if you win the second ball, you've sort of created almost an artificial transition there. But it appears like you're giving the ball away. I don't think that Amorim thinks that Šeško's going to win everything in the air, or it's going to go the channel and he's going to win every race. It isn't just that. Sometimes it's about what happens afterwards. So if you put a defender under pressure to win a header, then something's going to happen after that. And it's about being in the right spaces to make it happen after that too. And we've got a couple of players that I think are going to be really good at picking up those second balls. And one of the things I noticed yesterday was something, and this is not the tactical point at all really, but over the last 3 or 4 years in particular, you look at United's physicality versus the other team and think, if this degenerated into a scrap, we'd get absolutely pasted up and down Old Trafford. That's not the case anymore.
No,
Arsenal in particular, Arsenal and Newcastle in particular, the two teams I felt almost ashamed looking at United coming out next to them, and looking at United now. And the reason thing that led me to this was that thing about the second balls. It means you can alter varying tactics, so you could do the intricate passing shit, but you can also do the more agricultural, the simpler, the more direct shit, because physically you've got the speed, you've got the movement, and you've got the speed of thought, but you've got the physicality, the strength, and the power to win duels, as we have to call them these days, and hang on to the ball.
Well, and the interesting thing about that is also the different style of footballer that Cunha and Mbeumo bring, in that they do naturally drop into those half spaces, whereas Rashford and Garnacho tended to stay wide, or even Antony tended to stay much wider, a little bit harder to isolate them and find that space. With the world-class passer that you might have if Onana was in goal, world-class fuck-up on crosses as well as Bayendier, but, we don't need to get onto that one. By the way, my Substack today, I managed to write 2,000 words last night on goalkeepers, and why they're all so crap. nqatpod.substack.com.
How many views
Maybe
did you
chaps
get?
will write for it.
How many views did you get on that?
I've got, I don't know yet. I'm looking at the stats. So 4,700 people on that list.
Ooh.
Yeah, there you go.
Rich flex.
Yeah. Well, I currently have 279.
Flex, you asked him.
Yeah, it's not flex. Yeah. Here's for the anti-flex. The anti-flex, I have 279 paid subscribers, although 276 of those were comps because I gave it free to people who pay us on Patreon. Don't need to pay us twice.
Rich flex.
So 3 actual people ponied up money. 3 people.
Yeah,
brilliant.
That's brilliant.
There you go. You chaps can come and write for it, and we'll increase the numbers. Yeah. Anyway,
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So then I'm doing IT, and when I go to plug the servers in, they become sentient, and they won't let us access our network unless we forward their chain emails and memes to more and more and more people, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant finds and invites best-fit candidates to apply, so you can discover talent you may have missed. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
It kind of transitions into thinking about the forwards and the pressing as well, because Amorim called this out after the game. He said we were brave with that. And I think that's one of the things I've kind of always felt last season, that we weren't. We were pressing in 1s and 2s. It was Bruno going on his own or Højlund going on his own. It's just too easy to play around. And they were pretty coordinated. I mean, it was Mountain and Mbeumo. They went into a 4-4-2 and Mountain and Mbeumo was kind of doing the press. And I thought that was good. Not that I'm a coach and I know these things, but it looked good from my amateur perspective.
I thought it was more than good. Actually, I thought it was brilliant. I can explain why. So what was happening in our press perhaps last season, and definitely under Ten Hag, if you watch what the Man United forwards are doing, instead of pushing further up and instead of pushing really high on the goalkeeper and Arsenal's very wide back four, Mbeumo and I think it's Casemiro next to him, they kind of drop back, So they make sure that like the passing lanes to Rice and Zubimendi were covered. And that left Mount and Cunha wide. So there's 2 players that are wide and then 2 in the middle that are hanging back to make sure that the passes through the center are clogged out. But as soon as Raya passes it to either the left or the right, whoever is on the left or the right, whether it's Mount on the left or Cunha on the right, that's when they press to whoever gets the ball on the left or the right. So as soon as Raya plays it out, there's a Man United player on them. There is no inside pass because there's 2 players that have dropped deep. I thought it was a really good pressing system that worked. And there was a couple of times where you saw Arsenal they kind of gave the ball away, or they shoved it back towards their own lines. They shoved it from left to right. They shoved it from right to left. And what happens in this press is, even if you don't have players who are aggressive in the press, you hurry the opposition into making a pass or to quickly try and funnel the ball in from defense into attack. When that doesn't happen because there's players in the right position, or particularly on Mason Mount's side, because I think he's Man United's best presser, you can squirm the ball out. I want to see, and I need to see, Man United do this to every single team in the league. I don't care who, apart from like maybe, Liverpool or a very quick transition team. If you do this to the bottom half of the Premier League, I'm telling you, they will turn the ball over within a second.
Yeah.
In that half.
And on that point, something that I found really encouraging about all of this is that if United produce the level that they produced yesterday against almost every team in the league, they'll win. And United have got levels to get to way, way beyond that. They've got Mbuma and Cunha to settle. They've got the team to gel. They've got Šeško to come in. They can play a lot, and they will play a lot better than they played yesterday. And even yesterday, they hit a level at which I think they're probably physically a little bit ahead of Arsenal. They're fitter than Arsenal. They look fitter. So we have to bear that in mind. But it doesn't look like this season's Arsenal should be loads better than what this season's United, really. And that feels like massive steps forward taken, partly just with the players we bought, because what we say about tactic, talent will always be the main thing. It feels like they've bought well, but they've bought the players who have the intelligence to understand what the manager wants from them. And the manager appears to have done a pretty good job of communicating that over summer.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the challenge, while we're still on the forwards, was 22 shots, 1.3 XG or whatever it was. All really low value, didn't create enough good ones. On the counter of that, Arsenal made less than 0.3 XG from open play. I mean, they didn't create anything. They were so crap. What?
No, fewer.
Fewer.
What did he say? Did he say Rich Flex? Did he say Rich Flex?
No.
Does that mean?
No. He was trying to flex his language flex because I said less rather than fewer.
It's only that one. I don't know that. I'm really obsessed with less than fewer. It's not like
mostly I get that one right. Occasionally Dan will call me on.
So I got corrected a lot as a kid. But it's just. I once was in synagogue and the rabbi said less when he meant fewer, and I couldn't help it, so I corrected.
You stood up. I object.
I didn't stand up, but I did say fewer in a voice, in my outdoors voice.
Yeah, Daniel, disruptive influence as always. All right, let's talk a little bit about United's lack of box presence, because it started with a false nine, played 70 minutes with a false nine. The good thing about that was that Mason Mount consistently found half spaces, worked well with Cunha. They weren't, flooding each other's zone, as Van Persie would call it. But when United did get into those forward positions, there was just no one in the box ever, right? So they weren't pushing enough players in there, but we didn't have a striker. How if United are going to do this, and I don't suspect they'll do it very often this season, how do you make that work, right? Rather than having 6 midfielders and no strikers.
I mean, it's one of the problems that I saw with this was because of the fact that there are so many players in build-up, right? There's probably 5 players in build-up if you're dropping your fullbacks back. There's 2 midfielders and there's 1 left 10 or right 10. That's like most of the team. That's So that's like, well, you're spending so much time doing the build-up, which is nice because I know why you're doing it. But that means that when you get the ball into Arsenal's half, you're going to find a very lonely fullback. So whoever has been made part of the build-up and has done it successfully, you've got to make that dash into the penalty area or the edge of the penalty area. I would like that to be Bruno Fernandes. Me personally, I think all United fans would like that to be Bruno Fernandes. Or what you do then is you make sure one of the fullbacks is really, really high, like really high, and you make sure you pin whoever is the back four or the defender. I don't care who they are. Just make sure they're as high as possible so there is a fullback.
Ahmed did that. When Ahmed came on, he did that.
He changed when Ahmed came on, I agree. But I also agree with what Dharnish was saying, that I think the lack of box presence wasn't just, or maybe even at all, because Mason Mount was playing as a false nine. It's because the formation, it's a problem with this formation, and something that they have to solve is how do you get built through midfield, and then have enough men at the other end, because obviously you're trying to create overloads and build up so that you can move the ball about and find your angles and get it forward. But then the problem with that is because you've created your overloads, you're underloaded with the bit at the business end.
Yeah.
And Šeško will make a difference to that because he's not going to come too deep, I don't think. And he has a goal scorer's instinct. So I imagine he'll be getting told what to do as well. But one of the things, and it was characteristic of Fergie's teams, is bare men in the box.
One of the things Amorim said about Šeško is he said, I think I'm right in saying he said he does too much work. And I read that to mean that he doesn't want him to do the RB Leipzig thing that he was doing last season, coming deep. And that was a Leipzig thing where they were playing Aluso Penda up front and Šeško a bit deeper. He won't do that at United. He wants him in the box, clearly. Running channels in the box, knockdowns, second balls, playing it out into the half spaces, all of that kind of stuff that you want a real number 9 to do. And that will make a big difference. Didn't really against Arsenal, but
it was hard to judge. It was little terrible.
Yeah.
But I'd agree with that because I would like for him to pin defenses as much as possible. But if you're going to do this, and I think my friend texted me during the game, he was like, "It's going really well. There's just no one."
Is that a flex? You've got a friend?
Is that flex? Is that flex? No.
Dharnish, no box presence, but he's got a friend.
But he said to me, "There's just nobody up there." So if you're gonna do that, what you could do instead is also, if players are late getting to the box or the edge of the penalty area, you can crowd maybe the edge of the box or the edge of the penalty area and just do lots of cutbacks.
Well, we know Amorim likes cutbacks, but I don't think he wants cutbacks to the edge.
Of course, but we're just spitballing at the minute, though.
6-yard box. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it suggests to me that his game model is not what we saw yesterday in that aspect. It's that he wants men around the second 6-yard box area. It's just a matter of working out how to get them there given that the way that his formation and his build-up's going to work is not going to be quite the same way that it worked with Sporting, because the league's different, the opposition different, so the players that he's got a bit different too. So I don't think I'm overly worried, especially because also United were playing Arsenal. We know from the team that he picked that he was a bit worried about getting caught by Arsenal, because Dalot's not going to play right wing back every game, for example. We picked him because he was worried about the opposition.
Yeah, and it felt a little bit conservative as a result. But United did dominate the ball, so that was the counter to that.
I'm not criticising the decision, although I hated it at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I guess the concept of it bothered me a bit. I was disappointed when I saw it. In the playing, it was fine. What I'm saying is that just in terms of what we've been saying about a problem with this formation is box presence. I think we can say that Amorim wants box presence, and we're going to see more of it. I think he just needs to work out how it's going to happen, especially in the big games.
Yes. All right. Can we talk a little bit about central midfield before we leave? Because obviously Bruno's new role this season, he's going to be playing there a lot, I suspect, assuming that Cunha and Mbeumo are fit, and they both stay fit quite a lot, which is good and unusual for a United player. But Bruno was very deep, and United build up wide more than they do centrally. He got 60 touches, something like that, which not that bad, but I guess you'd like more from him. What did we feel about his role? And then Casemiro's role, which was very, very limited, almost no time. I mean, you look at his touch map, it's quite deep and quite central, and he played 70 minutes or whatever it was. What do we think of central midfield? Is it going to be good enough to compete in the Premier League? Because it definitely wasn't last season.
On the basis of that performance, I think I'd like to see Bruno further forward. But we've just signed Cunha, we've just signed Mbeumo and Šeško. That's 3 slots that are probably going to regularly play. Is he good in that role? Yeah, he is. Was he good in that role last season? Yes. But you might have one of the most creative players in the world, and you're shoehorning him back into this like late Wayne Rooney era role where it's like, oh, he can do anything. He's great. Like, yeah, I know, but I'd still rather have him closer to the goal. So there's this like dilemma that they have, because if you take him out of midfield, you have 3 options in midfield, and one of them at the minute is well off it. Ugarte, when he came on yesterday, like, I will never criticize the Man United player overtly because we do that too much. But I was like, bro, just go, please. Just have a Gatorade, have a banana, do something. Just have
Would he like to blame Turkey? Come on, Ollie.
Just do
your business.
Something. Get him off the ball as much as possible, because he was miles off it. But then you go, okay, fine.
Yeah.
If you take Bruno out of the central midfield role, there's only 3, and one of them should not be having. Casemiro should not be playing 50, 60 games a season.
Well, he won't.
But we don't have him.
We don't have 50 or 60 games a season, yeah.
So on that point, I think, were we to get a midfield player, a proper midfield player, would be able to see Bruno nearer the edge of the opposition box.
Take more risks.
Yeah, it's just when you've got, and also I think when the team settles a bit too, and when the opposition aren't as good as Arsenal are. But it was sort of a perfect storm of things that forced Bruno backwards yesterday. Mm-hmm. But if we were to get a midfield player, like someone good enough with the legs and the intelligence to play as a lone 6, then Bruno is going to be another box crasher or man around the edge of the box. But yesterday, they really didn't want to lose. Obviously, they did. They didn't want to get counted on by Arsenal.
They did
in a way that you might be prepared to by some of the teams that are less good than Arsenal are. But so I think we will see more of Bruno around the box. But yeah, ultimately, it's his main skill is making goals happen, and we're restricting that because we signed 2 other players. But I guess that's part of the succession plan to Bruno, really, isn't it? That United relied on him solely and uniquely, not on purpose, just because he's the only one they've been able to rely on in the last few years. That isn't the case anymore, really.
Yeah.
If United get another midfield player, a proper one, they can do without Bruno at that point. I'm not saying that you would want to, but if you played the other midfield player plus Mainu, plus Cunha, plus Mbeumo, no one's going. That's not on midfield.
Yeah. What does this mean for Kobbie Mainoo? Because, I mean, if you push Bruno further forward and he played as, if for example, he'd played as the false 9 rather than Mason Mount, and there's reasons why Mount was in that role, especially around the pressing and the pressing trigger. But imagine that happened. Does Kobbie Mainoo succeed in that role alongside Ugarte or Casemiro? And if not, what the hell are we doing? One of the best academy products coming out for the last 10 years, and we can't find a role in the team for him at all, in any role. It's a bit of a concern.
Yeah. It is a little bit of a concern, but I feel like there might be games where we see him at left 10 or right 10. And then I feel like there might be games where we see Fernandes at left 10 and right 10 as well. But then you're right, it is a dilemma because I'm like, well, no, they just signed Cunha and Mbeumo and they're going to play most of the games. So
I feel like the manager's decided that Mainoo isn't that. I feel like we're much more likely to see him as one of the pivot players. And his best hope, I think, let's say Amorim succeeds at United, or stays at least, does well enough to see out, say, 3 years. Mainoo's best chance is to get as fit and as fast as he can. And then in a year, when Bruno's starting to get on a bit more, is to be the guy who plays next to whoever the other guy is, to take Bruno's place. So you sign a 6, and he's the attacking 8.
Yeah,
that's his best hope is of learning that role and playing that role. If Amorim stays, if Amorim goes, and the next guy will come in and play 4-3, he'll be fine.
Yeah,
but if not, then the only way he's getting into this team is as Bruno's successor as the midfield 8.
No, I agree with that. And the problem is, of course, I would it's very hard to suggest, as some people have done, that you sell Menu to fund another midfielder, because I don't think we can trust that Amorim will be here. I hope he is. I think there's a lot to like about him, but he's lost half of his games, literally half, right? That he's the only United manager in history that has managed to lose that many games and keep his job. And you just can't say if it continued. If for example, United lost 7 of the first 10 that are really difficult, the pressure will be unbelievably high. And so it'd be mad to sell Menu on that basis. If we get that a year down the line and Amorim succeeds and has said, hey, I just can't find a role for this guy in the team, even then I would be on the barricades protesting against it. But you can make a logical argument. Right now, you just can't.
I think there'll be games where we see lots of Manu minutes, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure. And he said, didn't he? He said there's big things planned.
There's gonna be lots of Manu minutes.
I hope.
I looked at the game for I don't know, where are we in the rewatch? 85 minutes? There's 5 minutes left. So many attacks were broken up by Casemiro. So I know you said that he didn't have many touches. And I'm looking at that thinking, for his experience, and strangely, he was really calm. There wasn't that many. Someone clearly told him, bro, you realize you can't slide tackle someone 20 yards away. And I think it's something clicked with him. But he
also wasn't moving as much. I mean, just stood in a zone, basically.
This guy is one of the best in the world, or was one of the best ever in the world at breaking up attacks solely. And he did it for a Real Madrid team. In a game like this, I think you would see Casemiro. In a game like Palace or Brentford, we'll probably see Mino and Bruno Fernandes.
I looked at some of the stats, and Casemiro, 3% of the time he was sprinting. So, and I think that's good, by the way. I'm not calling him lazy. I'm saying when he's sprinting to slide tackle from 85 yards away and he picks up a yellow or a second yellow, then it's a problem, right? That limited role makes sense for him at this time. All right, there you go. Very good, chaps. Good breakdown. You can catch us on Patreon if you want to listen to this ad-free. Everyone's complaining about the ads, sorry. Got to feed the kids.
Host got to eat too.
Yeah, it's true.
As the great Doughboy said.
Very good. Dharnish, thank you.
Thank you as always. Yeah, game week 1 done.
Daniel.
Well,
bye now.